So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's postgraduate information session on the MA Multimedia Journalism. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping notes. So all microphones and cameras are disabled during the session, just to ensure this is a smooth experience for everyone. But if you have any questions at any point, please do pop those in the chat box. We'll be answering as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end. And the session is also being recorded, and it'll be available on the GCU YouTube page in the coming weeks. So you'll be able to watch it back or share with any others. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce today's presenter. We have Gillian Calvert with us today, who is the Programme Leader of MA Multimedia Journalism. And I will now hand over to Gillian to take us through the presentation.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so I'm the Programme Leader. I've been in charge of the programme for a few years now. I'm a Senior Lecturer in Journalism at GCU. The degree itself has been going for 17 years now. It's very, very well established. But we do keep updating it to reflect what's happening in the industry. In fact, last year we updated it quite a lot. I'll just talk you through that when we get to more of the detail about it though. So the degree was designed in conjunction with employers, and we keep liaising with them very regularly to make sure we're providing the key skills and the knowledge which make our students ready for working in a newsroom today. And those requirements are changing all the time. The key has always been that it's a multimedia degree, and that means that we have to do what it says on the tin. Students have to be able to work in TV or radio or print or online by the time that they leave. You'll have done your homework. You'll know that there's master's programs elsewhere in the UK that are very much focused on print or broadcast or news or sports journalism. But the employers we talk to say that they want people who can produce high quality content across all media. And it's really quite common for someone who starts the course who might think that they want to work in print and online to actually find they really enjoy radio, for example, or vice versa. So why choose us? Students have a wide range of backgrounds. Some students already have a journalism degree that's non-accredited, but they come to us because they want to get the key skills. Other people have degrees in a really wide range of other subjects. It doesn't matter what sort of degree you have. What we want is someone who's interested in journalism and is keen to do it. It is a really practical, hands-on course. And we start with the basics in literally week 1 in September. So that's the basics of learning news writing, how to structure and write news stories, and broadcast production. That's writing scripts, editing and recording for radio initially before we start on TV. What we do is real world learning. Yes, of course, there are some classroom exercises to teach people the absolute basics, but we think the best way to learn journalism is to deal with real people and real events. And that's what students start doing really at a very early stage in the course. All of our equipment is as close to industry standard as possible, and we're constantly updating it. In fact, I'm currently moving out of my office and relocating because work on 2 new newsrooms is starting next week. If you're interested in radio, we have 2 radio studios. They use the Synergy system, which is used by Bauer radios. So that's Radio Clyde, Radio Thorpe, etc. And we also have the latest version of the Burley editing system for radio. That includes a newsfeed with it. What this means is that if students go into a radio newsroom on work experience, they're already familiar with the systems. And especially if it's someone like Radio Clyde, they'll find that that particular place is full of our graduates. We also use Adobe InDesign, which is as close to industry standard as we can get for print production, and Adobe Premiere Pro for video work. All students have access to the Adobe Creative Suite, which they can use anywhere on campus or on their own devices. For filming and recording, we've got a range of cameras. We have broadcast quality HD television cameras with mics, tripods, all the kit, and we have everything through kind of mid-range cameras down to mobile phone kits, which people can use for mobile journalism. And again, those have special microphones which we can use with them. In terms of who teaches you, Everyone who teaches journalism here is an experienced journalist. So I was a newspaper editor for a long time, and I still run a news website. Angus Dixon, who teaches on the course, spent a lot of time working for STV and BBC Scotland. Kia Murray was working at BBC Scotland until last year. And like Angus, he'll be covering the elections for the BBC next month. Christina McIntyre spent a lot of time working for STV and Radio Clyde, and she still does regular shifts at BBC Scotland. As well as that, we also bring in expert working journalists who are often our alumni, because we know that things change a lot in the workplace, and we want to keep track of that. During the last year, for example, the news editor of Radio Clyde was taking our postgraduate students for radio classes, and the managing editor of NewsQuest was taking regular classes with our postgrad students as well. And that's not just coming in and doing a one-off talk, it's doing regular classes every week, marking and assessing what they do. The location is a really good advantage for us as well. Elsewhere in the UK, a lot of newsrooms have been closed for cities without any real news presence at all, but that's definitely not the case in Glasgow. It is still Scotland's media city, and we're right in the middle of a city centre, which is great for students if they want to report what's happening out there. They can report firsthand on a lot of the stories in the city centre. In terms of journalism employers, Glasgow has BBC Scotland, STV just along the river as well. There's a couple of commercial radio stations here, which are big employers, and several newspaper offices, including the Herald, which is one of the oldest English language newspapers in the world. So the degree's unique in Scotland and very unusual in the UK. Ever since it was launched in 2009, it's been double accredited by the NCTJ and the BJTC. The NCTJ historically was predominantly a print organisation which accredited newspapers and magazines, but now it covers all media. The BJTC is a Broadcast Journalism Training Council, and they are responsible for radio and television. The two bodies work really differently. As well as for masters, students will work towards their NCTJ diploma, and all of those qualifications are geared in with the work in the diploma. There are extra fees for that diploma, but those are included in your fee for the masters, so you wouldn't have anything else extra to pay for that. The BJTC don't have their own qualification in the same way, but what they do is make sure that we keep our equipment up to date, that the people teaching you are sufficiently experienced in that particular area. If you're teaching radio, you have to be someone who's very experienced in radio, and that we cover the absolute core knowledge that employers will need. And that is for broadcast, that's particularly law all the time, and the Ofcom code as well. For Ofcom, we get in Joan Darroch, who's head of compliance at STV, and takes students through that. In Scotland, there isn't another postgraduate degree which is accredited in journalism. Across England, across the rest of the UK rather, it's really unusual to get one which is double accredited. You might get a university which has two different streams, but a named award which is accredited by both is really unusual. That makes it a challenge for us because we're trying to meet all of their requirements, but for our students, it means that they're getting the best of both worlds. And both of these organisations are very well recognised by employers. It's not straightforward getting a job in journalism at the moment. The market is very difficult. But this gives our students a real step ahead, because if they can say right at the top of their CV that they're studying in an accredited course, and employers will be able to relate to that very clearly. So what you'll study. It's a busy course. I always say that to people. If you're doing a conventional undergraduate degree, you might only have a couple of hours of classes a week. This is really different. It's because it's multimedia and because it's double accredited, we have to cover not just the practical skills of filming and recording and editing for all the different media, but also how to write. And it's a different writing style for radio, for television, for print and for online, and of course academic writing still. So it is quite demanding. is 4 busy days a week at the moment in the timetable. So one of the first modules you'll do is news writing and news gathering. I lead that, and that's where Stuart Ward, who's managing editor of NewsQuest, takes students who are covering local news stories. There's also feature writing in that module as well, which is taught by Elaine Hunter, who's a very experienced feature writer. At the same time, there's production and presentation, which is teaching people how to edit, record, and produce packages for radio and television. And some people will have some experience with software when they join us, others won't. We always assume that we're starting from scratch with that. It's a master's degree. There are also more conventional academic modules. So global media industries looks at wider developments. These can be ethical developments, regulatory, or technological things like deepfake videos. 2 absolutely key things for knowledge for journalists, wherever you're going to work, that employers want are government and public affairs and media law. And those are both taught all the way through the year. After Christmas, you have reporting and regulation, which currently my colleague Keir Murray leads. And that's more specialist journalism. So it's a data story. You can choose a specialism. You write about politics. And also we look at Ofcom and IPSO, which is the main regulatory code for print and online. Again, in the second semester, there's multimedia news days. And that's 1 day a week, currently Tuesdays, but that might change, I don't know, where students rotate around for different media. So typically you'll start with 2 or 3 weeks of radio, where you have to work as a team to produce radio bulletins at, for example, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Then you might move on to print, where students are producing pages for a newspaper for a deadline at the end of the day, and then a TV bulletin at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. All the time students are writing as well for the website which we run for them. So that's quite a demanding module. It's very hands-on, and all the stories which students cover there are stories which are happening in Glasgow or nearby, and students go and they work with the press pack to get news from these events. Another module which we introduced last year for the first time, because employers were suggesting it, is data analytics. Being able to use big data and turn it into something that's visually interesting is something which gives a lot of students a real advantage in the workplace now. Employers are also really keen on shorthand, and we're the only place in Scotland now where students can learn shorthand for journalists. It's a really key skill. It's not just newspapers who insist on it. Sky Sports, for example, has an extremely strict policy on shorthand, and it's a great skill to have. During the summer, in semester 3, rather than a dissertation, you'll be doing a practical project, which is a combination of at least 1 or 2 news media. So you could be doing radio packages or podcasts and a video documentary, or producing your own website. It's a real opportunity for you to produce something which is yours, which is very creative and quite original. Where will you work? A lot of students go on to work in Scotland, and we are really lucky that Glasgow still has so many key employers. Journalism is obviously the most common first destination. People do go into public relations afterwards. Because of the multimedia nature of it, you can go on to work at any of the organizations that are shown, and you can move between them as well. What we've seen recently is people moving from STV to BBC, from newspapers to STV, and then back again. It's a really mobile, fluid workplace at the moment. Okay, that's me. I don't know if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask in the box, and Katie or I can help.
Thanks, Giles, for taking us through that. It was really helpful to get an overview of the full course and everything that our students have to look forward to if they join and start with us. Now, I know we've got a few attendees who've joined us live. There's time now if anyone would like to submit questions, as Giles has mentioned. If you don't think of a question today, or if you think of something afterwards, then of course, the support doesn't stop here. You can reach us via email. You can contact our student inquiries team, studentinquiries@gcu.ac.uk, or on our website. We also have the live chat. So don't be stuck after the session finishes. But of course, we are here just now if there's anything specific you would like to know from Gilles about the course itself. We have some time. So
what you're probably wondering about is the admissions procedure. You have to apply centrally through the university. They refer all admissions to me, and we have to interview people before we can offer them a place. That's for a number of reasons. Firstly, from our point of view, we like to see a bit more of people than we can just from their online application, the CV and the statement of purpose which we ask for. From your point of view, all degrees vary a lot, and some journalism postgraduate degrees are really different from ours. So we want people to make the best decision that they can, the best informed decision. And the third reason is that both those accrediting bodies, the NCTJ and BJTC, say we have to do it. So even if we didn't want to, we would be doing it anyway. Don't be put off by the interview though. It's straightforward, no trick questions. We'll just be asking why you want to study journalism, what your ambitions are, things like that. We also want you to have a chance to have a look around the campus and ask us any questions. That's really important from our point of view.
Thanks, Jules. Yeah, I think it is worth knowing for everyone that the interview benefits both sides. You know, it's not just for you and for the department, but it does help any prospective students to make sure that they are choosing the right course for them. And it is a big decision. So we want everyone to be fully happy before they make that commitment. So yes, it can be daunting, but certainly worth it for both sides. So, there's a question there for you. How many people are there usually on the course?
That really varies. The smallest number we've had is 8. Currently there are 11. Last year there were 18. The largest is 25. If we have a particularly high number, we, in broadcast classes in particular, will split people into 2 groups, because one of the BJTC regulations is that we can't have too many people in a class where we're teaching practical hands-on skills. It is quite, even if it's a big cohort, it is a relatively small cohort of students compared to undergraduate courses, and it's always got quite a good team atmosphere. People do have to work as a team, especially in the Newsdays module.
Thank you. I think that can be nice, certainly, that you get to know your classmates when it's a smaller group. Means you've got that kind of team to lean on if you need some support throughout, beyond just the academic team. You've got your classmates as well who can help each other.
Yeah, the alumni network is really good as well. A lot of the time when students are going on work experience, they're dealing with people who've done our course previously.
Which is great.
Okay, so long form multimedia stories, not during the first 2 semesters. Because the BJTC requirements, we are quite driven by that Newsday format, but definitely during the project in the summer. So for example, last year, one of the students did a video documentary and supported it with some other online stories about the redesign of streets that's happening in Glasgow city centre at the moment, and how that was focused on, or could be more focused on, women and making them feel safer. And she produced some quite interesting creative stuff there. So yeah, that's definitely the opportunity to do that during the summer.
Great. Thank you for the questions that are coming in. Please feel free to ask any more while we're chatting. I think an interesting point you made there, Jules, as well, about alumni and the fact that our alumni are so keen to welcome our students, I think says a lot about the degree itself, having been through it themselves, studied here, and then that they're also happy to work with our students. You know, they trust it as a quality degree and a good student that they will get in their business.
It's a huge advantage. I think we've got students in pretty much every major newsroom in Scotland, and some places, especially News Quest, which is the Herald, Glasgow Times, National, and Radio Clyde. It's pretty much all our students. Right. Interesting.
a nice atmosphere, I'm sure, when they go in to see some people they can relate to, and they know what they've been through when they've been studying as well. So I think we can just wait a moment to see if there's any other questions coming in. But as we've said, support doesn't stop here. So please do get in touch if you think of anything after this that you would like to know or that you wish you'd asked during the webinar, then you can email us. But I'd like to thank Giles again for your time taking us through the presentation, and a big thank you to everyone who joined us online to listen and find out more about MA Multimedia Journalism. Just a reminder that the session will be available on the GCU YouTube channel in the coming weeks if you'd like to revisit any of the content. And we really hope that you found today's session helpful, and we hopefully will welcome you to GCU for your postgraduate studies soon. So thank you, Giles. Thank you to everyone who joined us, and hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, everyone.